I'm bored. Let's watch Star Wars Theory. All right, we talked about this in another video, and it is Brendan Wayne from The Mandalorian speaking out against some of the negativity within the Star Wars fandom. And we have Star Wars Theory here chiming in on it. So we're going to watch the video. I'm going to see where he goes with this. This might not be totally chuddy, but I do believe that we need to be honest about the stuff that Brendan Wayne is saying and stop dismissing people involved with Star Wars from calling out bad behavior. I think it's very negligent as content creators, as people on social media, to pretend that all of these complaints from actors and people involved with Star Wars, to pretend that these complaints are not real and what they're experiencing is not real. I think that's ridiculous. Let's watch the video.
The Mandalorian star pushes back on toxic Star Wars fandom. It's ours. Brendan Wayne is the grandson of John Wayne. He offered some sobering thoughts on the state of the Star Wars fandom. He's speaking from experience, having played the body double for Pedro Pascal's Din Djarin. So most of the scenes that we've seen of Din Djarin isn't actually Pedro Pascal. It is his voice, but that's mostly done in ADR, which means that they have Pedro come to a studio and they have him up on a screen, basically of Brendan Wayne's scenes, and then they do the voice over it.
Go, back to the ship!
I think this is pretty well known. I'm not going to knock him for this, for explaining it, but I think most people that watch the series or know about how Hollywood works understand what ADR is. But okay. Anyway, let's continue.
Right, and so that's why when Mando is walking, he has a very, like, John Wayne sort of walk because, well, it's his grandson. The latter is a relatively new character in the Star Wars universe, but he was quickly embraced by the broader fan community. It's a clear sign that the franchise is thriving, but it can also go off the rails, especially when the fans start gatekeeping. Do you know we're going to get into it?
Okay, I want to point out that gatekeeping is real. The issue is that a lot of these guys, including Star Wars Theory and almost everyone that does this sort of, or has this kind of behavior about Star Wars, they don't like being called gatekeepers, but they like participating in gatekeeping. Now, I would say Star Wars Theory isn't the worst person that does this. I don't think that his entire platform is built on gatekeeping. That would be inaccurate in a way to describe his content overall. But a lot of people in the Star Wars space here on YouTube definitely participate in gatekeeping, but they don't like when people say you shouldn't gatekeep. And a lot of them even pretend that they're not gatekeeping. But you absolutely are. You're trying to keep out certain individuals from being a part of a hobby or a fandom or something that you enjoy. That's literally gatekeeping. They don't want women doing things. They don't want gay people doing things. They don't want black people doing things. And of course, I'm speaking in general here because it runs across the board for like what kind of gatekeeping we're seeing in Star Wars. But to pretend that gatekeeping isn't happening or that somehow there is value in the kind of gatekeeping that is done on YouTube and social media, it's just utterly ridiculous at this point.
Clearly.
That must be frustrating.
It's worse.
Nobody talks shit. You know, we've had so many officials misrepresenting the fandom for so many years. You know, there's the ists and the phobes, and we're not dismissing the fact that those people exist. I've been on YouTube for 10 years. I've had my fair share of psychos and weirdos.
But you've hung out with people that do that stuff. You've been on panels with people that do that stuff. Like saying that I'm not going to dismiss that they exist. Okay, great. But the thing is, you have actually hung out with them. You've made content with those kinds of people. So you know who they're talking about. So the fact that you're aware of it and you're acknowledging it, but I also feel like in this video, you're kind of going to go off on this stuff a little bit. I feel like being aware of it and pretending like it's not a problem is a huge mistake. And it's a disservice to the community.
And definitely those people are out there and they throw muck everywhere. But to say anyone that dislikes or likes something is this or that, I have a real problem with it.
Okay, so here's the issue. I don't see it that way in terms of what is being said here, right? I don't see that here. I don't see it in a lot of the stuff that people complain about. If someone associated with Star Wars, and we're going to talk specifically about Star Wars here because that's what this video is about. If somebody associated with Star Wars calls out racist behavior, then they are talking about racist behavior, not the people that get accused of being racist or get accused of doing racist things. The people involved with Star Wars are calling out racist behavior and racist people. Now, if somebody's a hit dog and they want to holler, and they want to complain because they feel like they're, Star Wars is talking about me, chances are you feel like to some degree that what you're doing is the thing that they're accusing people of doing. That's the only real explanation for it. Because otherwise you would not be offended or upset when they go, hey, don't be racist. If you're not being racist, you would have no reason to be upset. So it seems like they're specifically talking about certain people within the community. And I said this on another video. If you're a racist fan, I don't care that you're a fan. If you're being racist, you still need to be held accountable for being racist or doing racist things. Full stop. So, I mean, I think when we're talking about this kind of stuff, we need to be specific, because this broad brush generalization that we do about the entire topic, you can generalize some things, but when it comes to things like this, you have to be specific.
And I like to break it down because it needs to stop.
Stop it. Get some help.
Wayne addressed that issue in a panel interview with MovieWeb, which noted how nostalgia influenced Star Wars fans through the years. The conversation stemmed from Ahmed Best's guest role in The Mandalorian Season 3. He played Jedi Master Kaleran Beck in Episode 4 and in a flashback sequence. He helped rescue young Grogu during the Jedi Temple siege. Wayne said that Ahmed Best's Jedi return was something that was owed to him, considering the backlash he received when he played Jar Jar Binks. If you didn't know, Ahmed Best played Jar Jar Binks, and he got bullied into essentially not wanting to even live anymore. And he was very candid about this. And it's really unfortunate the level of bullying that Jake Lloyd and Ahmed Best received when the prequels were coming out. Now, who was bullying him? It was more so the adults. I was 9 when episode came out. I loved Jar Jar. I loved Anakin. I thought Jake Lloyd did a fantastic job. But it was more so a lot of the boomers that were just really dogging on Ahmed Best, on Jar.
What difference does that make? What difference does it make which age demographic did it? This is completely irrelevant. The point is, he was suffering racist commentary. He was suffering backlash. I don't care if a person doing racist stuff is 70 or if they're 25. If they're doing it, they're doing it. Stop trying to shift the blame to the boomers or the older Gen Xers. It doesn't matter. It is absolutely irrelevant to the behavior itself and what was affecting the people that were involved. Keep this in mind as we go through this video, that he's acknowledging here that as far back as the prequels, they were already receiving racist backlash. That's all we need to know. It is absolutely irrelevant which age demographic of the community was doing it.
Jar Jar and on Jake Lloyd. Best did the voice and motion capture for Jar Jar Binks, who was an incredibly pivotal character in the Star Wars prequel trilogy. However, a large contingent of Star Wars fans, many of whom grew up with the original films, despised how the character was portrayed. It crossed the line when the hate towards Jar Jar was also directed at Best, who described the experience as the first textbook case of cyberbullying. The controversy damaged his career, so returning as Kaleran Beck was truly vindicating. I think a lot of us were really happy that you could see it on his face, on Ahmed Best's face, when he came back as this gallant Jedi with a green lightsaber. And it was definitely a full circle moment for him, because it was like, finally, he's, get to see his face. He gets love, and he's getting to be a cool character that's badass.
Okay, so we're going to pause there for a second. So Star Wars Theory here understands the gravity of what happened, and he's acknowledging that and saying, hey, I'm glad he got to come back. It was good to see him receiving love after all of this. So you're acknowledging that as far back as the prequels, racism and bigotry and all of that bullshit was happening against someone involved with Star Wars. And you're acknowledging here that it was good to bring him back and give him an opportunity to participate in Star Wars in a place where hopefully he wasn't going to get that same backlash. But we know that in 2026, or what was it, 2024, 2023, when he played this character, the backlash was even worse than it was in the prequels. Star Wars as a whole, the space of Star Wars, was even worse than it was during the prequels. So you know that. So yeah, I'm glad he came back, and I'm glad people loved him and got to see him. But understand that that did not change the culture of Star Wars on the internet.
Not to say Darth Jar Jar isn't badass, but you know what I mean.
These are going to hurt you, sir.
Best's story makes a great case against toxic fandoms. Ahmed Best might have been my favorite, whereas some people are like, hey, we didn't quite get the reaction we wanted for you. But guess what? We're going to change it all. and they had Ahmed come in from Jar Jar Binks, and then they made him the baddest Jedi on Earth. Wayne said, "It was such a beautiful thing, human thing to see beyond. It was payback for something that was owed to him, in my opinion. He would never say something like that, but I loved it, and it was incredible." Okay? Yeah, I agree. I'm happy that Ahmed... I was always the one that was standing up for Ahmed Best, for Jake Lloyd, for Hayden Christensen. You know, if you guys are rolling with me long enough to know that I had the cardboard cutout of Anakin Skywalker behind me in videos from 2018, 19, 2020. And
I love when you have to use like merch as proof of how much you love and appreciate something. Like, honestly, I think that's ridiculous that you have to do that. But I guess you do. It's YouTube, and people want to see like a visual representation of how much you love something, I suppose. So you've acknowledged here in this paragraph you just read that the toxic fandom does exist. You didn't push back against that, at least not yet. Maybe you will. Maybe you'll get to it. But you acknowledge it exists, and you acknowledge that in this situation with Ahmed Best, that this in fact was a case of cyberbullying, and it was a case of toxic fandom and gatekeeping. So now that you've acknowledged that, I don't know where you're going to go with the rest of your argument, because that is a clear example of what's happening, and it continues into modern Star Wars.
I'd get made fun of for it all the time online. And then, of course, finally, I think people just started to wake up to the fact that Anakin is a cool character. Maybe my videos really helped influence a lot of people. And most of us, as prequel fans, started to grow up and really be the voice for the prequel trilogy and change the tide. The boomers left, and we were the ones saying, hey, the prequels are awesome. Anakin is the GOAT. And that's...
Okay, so the boomers left. I don't think so. There's still a lot of boomers out there, the ones that are still with us, who are involved in the Star Wars fandom. There's a lot of older Gen Xers and a lot of Gen Xers in my age group that are still involved, that are now starting to echo the boomerism bullshit out there when it comes to Star Wars and pretty much any of these fandoms out there. But I will say what you're talking about here is so interesting to me, because you're admitting that your age demographic, the people who grew up with the prequels, have helped change the tide for the older generation's opinions on the prequels. So I would guess that, 15, 20 years from now, when we're looking back at the stuff like the Acolyte and Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, Mandalorian Grogu, there's going to be a group of fans from that age demographic that are going to defend those things tooth and nail, and people are going to start to wake up and realize they weren't as bad as they thought they were. This is a very clear case of showing that in the moment, people might be hating something, but then later on they realize that it's not as bad as they were making it out to be. So this is a really good example of that.
That's why then Hayden started coming back to all the conventions, and he's now in Ahsoka and so on and so forth. And he can definitely feel the love, and I'm really happy for him. Wayne extended that comment to the broader Star Wars conversations, which he observed can be derailed by toxic gatekeeping. He acknowledged the franchise is now operating in a very different landscape, especially after Disney bought Lucasfilm. Asked about the Acolyte Season 2's prospects, he said it's possible, but tricky. I think it's harder to do that with Star Wars right now, because you have Disney behind them, and Disney somehow has become a lightning rod in so many ways. Somehow, Palpatine returned. It's interesting to see people who are pulling against the franchise they love just because of their ownership. No, they're pulling against it because of the misdirection from what it was.
But that's a form of ownership. That's what he's saying. If you believe in any capacity that you can determine the direction of something that isn't yours, then you are exerting a form of ownership over that thing. And this isn't always bad. Like, that's not immediately like, oh, you are projecting ownership onto something, that means it's bad. It's not. Like, you can project ownership on something and want to invite people in to that fandom and say, hey, we all want you to be here. Come on in. It's for everybody, right? You could do that. And that is a way to do it without being toxic. But if you take and claim ownership over something and go, oh, we feel like they're desecrating this thing that we all participated in, but it's not our thing. We don't own it. We don't control it. It doesn't belong to us. It belongs to everybody. Then you are immediately doing an us versus them thing. Like, we own it. They don't. Therefore, they don't get to come in and choose what happens with this, because we get to choose what happens with it, because we have been fans of it longer. Therefore, our opinions and our feelings on it mean more than people coming into it now, coming into it recently. That is exerting a form of ownership. It is a form of gatekeeping. He's being 100% real here.
simple. That can be 100% toxic in the Star Wars world. This is where I start to have a problem with things, because there are ways of describing why you like or dislike something. And
Right. Okay. So this is where the cognitive dissonance is coming in. So what's happening here with Star Wars theory is Star Wars theory has replaced the boomers in the Star Wars is bad argument, right? So he talked about how the older group, they were out there pressuring and being assholes to Ahmed Best, Jake Lloyd. They were the ones doing this. And back then, they were the ones that thought they were protecting the thing they love. They're in the same position that you're in right now, but you can't really see it that way. You don't see it that way because you're in it. You're in the middle of it. You are the boomers of the prequel era. Okay, that's what you're doing right now. You're doing the thing that they were doing. And here you are 20 some years later going, that sucked. We grew up with the prequels. We loved it. And now they're gone. And now we have, we're in control of this or whatever. You're just replacing them in the thing that was causing Ahmed Best and Jake Lloyd and Hayden Christensen. You're replacing them in that scenario as a group of fans who believe that you control what Star Wars is. You're doing the same exact thing. And the crazy thing is you acknowledge that because when you read the earlier stuff, you're like, oh, that was the older generation. That was the boomers. Luckily, we came along, which, by the way, is weird because you're acknowledging that the fandom changes, new people come in, and the new people start to replace the older people in these fandoms. You're acknowledging that, but then you're going, no, this is ours. We don't want it desecrated. We don't want people coming in and changing it and things like that. You're saying all of this and not realizing that all you're doing is replacing the boomer side of the earlier argument that you made. It's incredible.
And having a difference of opinions doesn't immediately make you toxic. Just like loving everything about Star Wars doesn't make you have toxic positivity. Maybe it just doesn't mean that much to you and you're kind of fine with everything. Like, for example, Star Trek. I'm not invested in Star Trek. I used to watch it as a kid, the OG one, with my dad at midnight. It would come on TV. I couldn't care less what they do with it, really. It's like, okay, whatever. I don't know it. He-Man, that just came out. I thought it was fun. I don't know anything about He-Man. That was it for me. But for me to then go and tell a diehard He-Man fan, Masters of the Universe fan, what it's supposed to be and what I don't know, I'm new to their franchise, I know my place. I'm not going to even open my mouth with that.
So you're okay with gatekeeping. Keep it 100. You're okay with gatekeeping. I can tell you right now, there are people who are fans of Star Wars that might have came in 4 or 5 years ago that went really fucking hard into the lore of Star Wars and probably know more than most of the OG fans who just kind of watched the stuff and didn't really pay too much attention to the lore that was happening outside of just the main continuity. And I understand that. As someone, I watched Star Wars as a kid in theaters, right? That's where I watched it. And I consider myself a fan of Star Wars. I've been a fan longer than even Star Wars theory. I've been a fan of Star Wars longer than Star Wars theory. But Star Wars theory probably knows more about all of the little details and lore of Star Wars than I will ever know. So it would be really stupid for me to go, hey, I've been watching Star Wars longer than you, so you don't get to choose what happens with Star Wars. And this again goes against his arguments that he made earlier about the prequels, where he acknowledges that boomers were the ones who were fans of Star Wars, that were being bigoted during the prequel era, right? And being assholes during the prequel era. And then he comes along and now he's the one who gets to decide what happens with Star Wars. This doesn't make sense, bro. It doesn't make sense. Yes, if you started watching Star Trek tomorrow and within like 6 or 7 months time, you've consumed so much Star Trek that you understand Star Trek just as much as someone who's been watching it for 20 years. Yes, you get to participate in those conversations. Yes, you get to be a part of that fandom. Yes, you get to make decisions on what you think should happen with Star Wars. That is what the community is about. When we start picking and choosing and doing litmus tests for who gets to say what in terms of what they want to see from these franchises, it is gatekeeping and it is toxic. It is 100% toxic. If I start telling people they can't be a part of whatever community I'm in because they haven't been doing it for whatever metric that I consider to be valid, that is a form of gatekeeping and it leads to toxic behavior. You are spitting idiocy right here. This makes no fucking sense. You're like 2nd or 3rd generation Star Wars fandom at this point. And you're up here talking like you own it. when you're saying that you shouldn't be doing that because technically boomers have been watching Star Wars longer than you, so they should be the ones making the decision. I've been watching Star Wars longer than you, so maybe I should be telling you what to do. You see how ridiculous that sounds? Doesn't make any sense.
I'm a newcomer there. It's important to know that. They have been living and breathing that franchise, that fandom for God knows what, 40 years plus since Masters of the Universe came out. So who am I to...
All right, so hang it up. You cannot get involved with new fandoms and new hobbies. You heard it from Star Wars Theory. You can't do it. If you go over there and you start watching something new for the first time, if I start watching, I don't know, Ben 10 heavily tomorrow, right? And I start getting involved with it. I am just a spectator. I cannot be involved in that community and make any sort of statements on what I'd like to see or what I think about it. I can't do any of that because I should know my place because I haven't been watching it since day one. This is dumb shit.
Say like, no, this is how it's supposed to be. But no, dude, I'm a tourist. I'm a newcomer there. He says that can be 100% toxic in the Star Wars world. Wayne said fans have every right to criticize what they don't like about Star Wars, but they...
Right, the thing that you just said he wasn't saying, but he is. So he's not telling people they can't criticize it. And matter of fact, I've criticized stuff I've loved. Like if you watch any of my live streams, the Nocturnal Nerdcast, or any of the streams that I'm on, I have no problem talking about things that I don't like. I have no issue with it. I can talk constructively about things that I don't like because I'm not just trashing wokeness. Like I'm not going, oh, it's woke because there's a black person in it, or there's a woman in it, or there's a gay person in it, or how dare they girl boss this character. Like these are dumb complaints. They're not criticisms. They are dumb, toxic complaints, and they are a net negative to the community. That's what he's talking about. He's not talking about people who simply don't like a season of a show or have an issue with the way a movie ended. Like, that's not what he's saying. You know that. And sitting here pretending like you don't understand what he's talking about is chuddery behavior. It is chuddery behavior.
They don't have the right to impose their preferences on the entire community. Yeah, absolutely. You should not ever try and impose your beliefs or your preferences onto someone else who has a different belief. And that goes both ways. If you like it, don't try to tell...
Oh, we're both sidesing it. Can you engage with what he's saying without, like, framing your own ideology in it? We get it, bro. Like, you're a fence sitter. You don't care. Like when it comes to these kind of arguments, you don't care, obviously. So both sizing it is weird, like telling people they shouldn't be a racist or shouldn't be sexist or shouldn't be homophobic is not the same as the opposite side of that, where people are like, we should allow other people to be a part of this community. Like the opposite side of that is letting people be a part of it versus gatekeeping and preventing people from coming in. Those two sides are not the same, man. They're not the same.
Me to like it, and if I don't like it, then I'm toxic. And if you hate it, don't try to tell me to hate it too, otherwise I'm a shill. Everyone has different opinions.
Right, but the issue here is that you are taking his framing of toxic gatekeeping personally, like he's talking about you, because you have experienced people misrepresenting you in the past, and therefore you cannot open the doors up and go, yeah, this makes sense, this is real, what he's saying has merit. It's valid. You can't do that without both sidesing it because you are taking it personally based on things that you have experienced. What would be really fucking cool is if someone like Star Wars Theory, who has a large platform, would get up and go, yes, this is real. This is a real thing. We shouldn't keep people out of the fandom because of them being black or being women or being gay or whatever it is. We shouldn't do that. It would be really fucking cool if you did that, because then it's simply going, hey, everyone is invited into this fandom. And I understand that even if they don't want to give advice on what the next movie should be, or if they want to talk about their favorite TV show or their cartoon, it's okay. That's all okay. You could simply take that position, but instead, that some of the people that watch your content are involved with like Geeks and Gamers and Nerdrotic and stuff, because you have done that. You have courted that community to some degree. And so you have to sort of both sides it. I would much rather you just pick a hard stance on it and go, this is how I fucking feel, than to play this game.
And everyone comes from a different walk of life. Everyone processes things differently. Now, if something goes against lore of what is established in this franchise, because this isn't some new age thing that doesn't have any pre-existing comic books, lore, games, books.
The gatekeeping continues.
We don't have source material.
Stop it.
This is something that has almost 50 years of established books, games, comic books, and more. So there has to be rules in place. There has to be confines in place. And it all goes back to what George Lucas created. If you deviate from a character that was already established, or
George Lucas sold Star Wars. He sold it. I know that you guys do not like that. There seems to be some retconning of how people feel about it. I know you guys don't like that, but he sold it. He no longer controls the direction of Star Wars, meaning you have a couple of paths in the road. You can continue to follow Star Wars with its new ownership and the new direction of Star Wars. You can stop following Star Wars and just continue to love the stuff that you loved back in the day. You can do that. Or you can try and bully people into feeling how you feel about Star Wars. Now, I'm not saying that you're doing that specifically. We're talking about the toxicity within the community. Those are just three options. The big two are continue watching or stop watching. If it's not what you love anymore, and the person that you think should be in charge of it is not in charge of it anymore, and they're never going to be in charge of it ever again, then maybe it's time to move on. Maybe it's time to acknowledge that the thing that you loved is no longer the same, and you feel like it's time for you to move on. That's the adult thing to do. But you also mentioned there's 50 years worth of lore and history with this. You're not 50 years old, so I don't know who appointed you the king of Star Wars. I'm not sure how that happened, because you're arguing that we should be looking back at the people who were there from the beginning. So I don't know how you became the king of Star Wars, but it's such a privileged, entitled, gatekeeping position that you're holding here.
you could see his trajectory of his character development, and he goes and veers off into a weird path like Jake Skywalker, or like Ki-Adi-Mundi showing up and then hiding the fact that Jedi were dying from the Grandmaster and then lying about it in episode 1.
I don't know anything, okay?
That's when people have problems. And if it goes against something that is within the rules of physics, within the rules of math, within the rules of the game, of the story, well, there should be talk about that. Why are they creating it that way?
That's not the same thing as being toxic. And you know that. You are talking about rational conversations between fans about things that they don't think should happen or things that they would not have done. Okay? That is different from calling people names, sending racist stuff to different actors, sending sexist stuff to different actors, bullying directors, bullying writers. Those are not the same thing. And I want to believe that you know the difference in that, but when you make videos like this, I don't know how to take it. Do you not understand the difference? Do you not understand the difference between healthy conversation, healthy criticism, healthy debating about something, healthy fan interaction, and toxicity? Is it really that difficult for you to look at water and go, that's clear water. Over here is this green, slimy, bubbly mess. Is it really that difficult for you to understand the difference between those two things? I would like to think it isn't, but I do feel like you're playing a game here.
That doesn't make you toxic. That means you're just a diehard fan that understands, that has grown up with the brand, and you care. But the way they dismiss that is they look at a few psychos who are complete assholes, and they
who is they? Who are you talking about? Are you talking about the quotes made by Brendan, or are you talking about a bunch of other people? Right? What are we doing here? So what he's doing here is he's running the narrative. He's trying to do a they versus us situation where when they say this about us, then they are attacking us. They're attacking the true fans, the diehard fans, even though he knows full well that's not what the quote is that's being said here by Brendan. He knows that.
Say, hey, those people dislike it as well, and so you know what? We're going to lump everyone else in the same category as those psychos out there.
It's personal.
And actual ists and phobes. And
so it's personal. So you feel very personally attacked right now because he's calling out toxicity, and because you have some people in your comment section who have called you names. Now it's time to try and sort of like play this game of semantics about what it means to be toxic and who is this and who is that. Bro, we know who they're talking about. I would not even say that Star Wars theory is necessarily the same as like a media grifter, like a nerdrotic or a critical drinker. I wouldn't say that. Do I believe that he has participated in some of that in the past? Absolutely. We've covered it before. But I don't necessarily believe that is who he is at the core. Like, I don't know that. I don't think he's done enough content like that for me to go, yeah, definitively, this is what he is, right? I don't know that. But people in the comment section probably have called him names. But that's not what's being said here. And you're not steel manning the position that Brendan has. You are actually building straw men around it based on your own anecdotal circumstances.
So now everyone who dislikes it, you're toxic. It's a really cheap way of trying to dismiss anyone's opinions and argument, and I frankly think it's really stupid.
Well, you just did the same thing to him, though, and you did the same thing to everybody that calls out toxicity. So you're saying that if I say that there is a toxicity within the Star Wars fandom, I'm automatically just lumping in all criticism into toxicity? That is a straw man argument. It's a fallacy. You just did the thing that you're accusing other people of doing to you, right? You're saying this nebulous thing, anyone that says the word toxic at this point, including Brendan, must be lumping everybody together. That's your stance here. That's not the position that he holds.
I just don't want to deal with it, and I'm going to call it out every time something like this comes up. That's like any movie, show, or theater performance, he added. It's to be present and to watch it. And if you don't connect, cool. But we don't need to hear how bad you are, that they ruined your Star Wars. They didn't ruin your Star Wars. It's our Star Wars. Yeah, I got a major problem with that.
You want to go home and rethink your life?
Okay, so before he even comments on this, right? When he says it's our Star Wars, he's not talking about Disney and the people making Star Wars, right? And this is something that I've seen like 4 videos now where that's their interpretation of it. That's definitely not what he meant. I can't imagine he would have ever said that. And the fact that they're pretending he's saying this is crazy to me. He says it's our Star Wars. He's talking about everyone. Everyone. It's not Eric's Star Wars. It's not Star Wars Theory Star Wars. It's everyone's Star Wars. It's all of ours. So he's saying that not one person, one individual person should be able to control the entire direction of Star Wars because they didn't like a character or something like that. That's what he's saying. You didn't connect with the movie, right? That's the point he's making. But let's see if Star Wars Theory is actually going to take him at the way he intended that comment to be, or if he's going to do the chud stuff. Let's see if he's going to do the chud stuff.
Want to go home and rethink my life.
That last line to me is pretty freaking bold. And if you're going to say it's not your...
Is it bold to say that Star Wars belongs to everybody? I don't think that that's bold. I don't think it's bold. I think that's an accurate statement. Anybody that wants to engage with Star Wars can. So I don't think it's bold at all.
It's ours. Well, doesn't that kind of negate what your point is that it's for everyone? That doesn't mean that you should just accept everything. There's rules in place. Yeah, this is Star Wars. If they were all of a sudden to have your character do something...
All right, we're going to stop it there. He's doing the bad faith thing. He knows what he means when he says it's ours. He does, like, he's talking about everybody, bro. He's not talking about Disney. He's not talking about the Mandalorian and Grogu. Like, either you're really fucking stupid and I've given you too much credit, or you're following the Chud playbook, which is to take something that someone said and try and spin it. When he read the whole statement in context, the whole statement in context tells you that what he means is Star Wars belongs to everyone. That's what he's saying here. That's the whole point of that statement. But you're doing the Chud shit, and we're not going to sit here for the Chud shit. So my issue here is that with Star Wars Theory, in this moment, it's a lot of he's feeling personally attacked because the toxicity in the community gets called out. If someone, like, I'm a huge fan of Marvel. If they said, if you're watching a Marvel movie, you shouldn't be racist, right? I wouldn't assume they're talking about me because I'm not racist about people in Marvel movies. So if I were to suddenly jump out and go, they're attacking the fans, they're calling all of us racist, that would mean that I have said something or done something in the past that I know is either borderline racist or is just outright racist. The same thing that Nerdrotic does, same thing Critical Drinker does, same thing Geeks and Gamers do, where they pretend, like I said, only a hit dog hollers. They pretend like they're talking about all fans because it's targeting a very specific portion of the fandom, the people that are actually doing it. So you know better. You know better. He's not talking about you personally, but you're taking it personal. And that is a huge, huge red flag for me.